Oh boy. I wanted to do a series of videos as far as making like the ultimate close range Kentucky, southeastern Kentucky, 150, 200 yards in rifle build just for whitetail. And I called Sightron and I said, hey, I need a scope. Y'all have a couple options that I'm interested in. Would you all be willing to send me one to test run this whole deer season? I told them the gun it was going on, told them I was getting a can for it, went over everything that I'd planned on doing, and they were like, yeah, we'll get you one. So the options that I had to pick from was the S6, which for some reason they wanted to push this one specifically. This is the Japanese higher class scope compared to some of the other ones that they have. And I wanted a very clean reticle. I wanted that clean reticle is what I wanted, because I don't need no dope in my scope. I don't need nothing like that, no fancy stuff. I just wanted slick, crisp, quality. Wasn't even necessarily looking for something with a dot in it or any kind of illumination, but this one actually does have a limit. Let's see if we can display this here. It's a little dirty. It's had a hard season. Let me get mine in there. There we go. There. So I'm usually not a fan of illumination. I think it's tacky and cheap most of the time. But with this one, it was done correctly. Look at that. And what's cool about it is in between each notch, so I think that's 1, nothing, 2, nothing, 3, nothing, so on and so forth. And it goes all the way up to a 13 power, which is just crazy bright. Me in my deer hunting adventures this year, I only ran this scope at 1. I kept it on 1. I knew that if I wanted to get my reticle illuminated, I could just reach up and click it one time to 1, and I was good. It was perfect enough. In the super bright daylight, 1 was a little bit, it didn't stand out as much. You could run it up to like 10 or something like that probably in the really bright sun. I can't see wanting to use 13 because it is just like bright. A little too bright for me. But like I said, they sent me the scope. I'm just too thankful, too grateful for it. I appreciate the heck out of it. Full transparency here. They sent me this scope for free. I feel obligated to make this video. I told them I was going to make this video, so I kind of am obligated to make this video. But they didn't pay me to take this scope. We do have a working relationship, me and Sightron, at least a little bit. I've drawn a few graphics for them and stuff. Most of the scopes that I've had over the years are usually a few other brands like Leupold. I've had some cheaper scopes. I've tried the cheapest of the cheap, and I've tried some pretty decent ones, you know. Nothing in this price range, nothing of this class. It's usually, you know, anywhere from $200 to $500-$600 is most of the scopes that I've ever operated in my time. I ain't no money bags. But with this scope, they've got the S6, which is this one. You can see that big, beautiful S6 right there. And then they've got the S-TAC. The S-TAC is essentially the same size and fit of this scope, I believe, but the only thing I wasn't crazy about with the S-TAC is it's geared for AR platforms, and I don't really shoot competitions. I shoot animals and then I eat them. So having all of that dope in the scope for an AR-15 was completely useless for me unless I just wanted to play around and stretch out to like 300 yards and just lob some 300 blackouts for fun. I wanted a scope to go on this gun that was going to stay on this gun. I didn't want to fool with taking it off, no quick detach, nothing like that. I got solid tally mounts for it that direct mount to the receiver. I didn't want a rail. I didn't want any other points of failure, I guess. I just wanted it as plain Jane, tough and rugged as it could be. Now I could have went for the S-TAC or the S6, either one. The reason they wanted the S6 is they were gung-ho about moving this scope and getting me to look at it. The S-TAC is a Filipino scope. This one is a Japanese scope. So just in that, you're gonna jump considerably in price. Better glass, I think the the coatings that they do on the glass in the Japanese scopes is different. It's obviously should be, for the price, it should be better. I've not looked through the S6 specifically, but I have looked through a lot of their S1 scopes, and all of the S1 scopes are, for the money, nothing hardly compares to them to me. Like if I look through an S1 Sightron scope versus like a Leupold or a Vortex or cheapo Monstrum, to me, like every time, something about the Sightron, man, the eye relief is right. See, I don't know all the technical terms of scopage. I'm not a scope nerd. I just know that when I pick it up, I like it and it feels good and it looks good. Something's better about it to me. Something that will make me like a scope more is when you look through it and you don't have like a huge black ring around the outside. It just almost looks like you're looking through just a slick piece of glass with no border to it, which is something that this scope feels like. Like maybe it's the rim of it or something is just smaller than other scopes, or the glass goes out to the edge a little closer. It's the same thing with their S1 series, which is like it's all Filipino line and it's much cheaper. Like you can get a decent hunting scope in the S1 line for $200, I think. This scope will run you about $1,400. With that alone, we are at a higher value scope than I've ever had the pleasure of dealing with. 1x6x24. To me, man, this was just like the perfect close range scope that you could possibly, the best one that you could possibly find. Like I said, there's no crap in that reticle. There's nothing you're having to fool with. You don't have to goof around and do weird stuff with it. It's just you throw it up and shoot. And in Southeast Kentucky, deer hunting, you're lucky if it's over 100 yards. So 1X is, to me, optimal. Now, if you do have a deer out there at like 100 and you want to confirm what it is or how many points it's got, whatever, and you make sure you're not shooting the neighbor's dog, you can obviously reach up and just crank it to 6 really quick. And that's something else, is just the adjustment is like buttery smooth. It's just firm enough that you won't smack it on something and cause it to change, but it's just loose enough that you're not like pinching the crap out of it to try to get it over to 6. One other cool feature and a dilemma that I had with this gun is, with the suppressor, you want to shoot subsonic rounds for fun or possibly for deer if you know what you're doing and you know where to aim. Supersonics and subsonics are going to shoot vastly different. So you can't do both with one scope. My reasoning was, let's take these scopes that have 0 stop. So that little Allen on the top, you back that baby out, you can take this turret up and move it around and set it back to 0. So you're out there at the range, you get it just right. Then after you do, you loosen that up, pick it up, move it over, and drop it back down on 0. So in my mind, I was like, let's 0 with subsonics out to 60 yards. You know, I'll take the screw out, set it back on 0. Now, with the supers, I want to know where those supers hit, so I will memorize that number. And luckily, the only change I had to make all the way out to 100 with the supersonics was right there. You can see my line is on 48. All I have to remember is that number on 48. And if I can do that, then I know where the supers are going to hit. So it's easy as that. I can take that top turret cap off, go to 48, run supers, or if I want to play around, or heck, if I want to deer hunt really close range, and like I said, I know what I'm doing, and I feel like I can pull it off, I can set this to 0, just as easy as this, and it is lethally accurate. I've played with it. I've tried out at the range, I've goofed around with it like that, and then set it back to my number and shoot it, and it's still dead on. That is something that I have not been able to experience with cheap scopes. They just don't seem to want to do that. This one does. That cap is solid aluminum and it is just beefy. The whole scope is beefy. Everything just, you can tell it's an expensive scope just by like how clean everything is, the fit of everything, how tight like the tolerances are on all of it. This thing got absolutely drenched one day when I was out deer hunting, and I'm talking, if I would have taken a bucket of water and dumped it on my head, I probably would have been drier than I was when I was actually hunting with this thing. I took a great buck with it. A friend of mine took his first deer with it, took his second deer with it. I took another doe with it. I took another doe with it. And dude, just that fast target acquisition of that 1X and this type of scope was just perfect, man. Like I said, I don't know a ton of the technical terms. I can't sit here and bore you with the length and the specs and the weight and all that. It's a beefy, heavy, extremely well-made scope in Japan that is absolutely perfect for this application. It would also be perfect on an AR-15 if you were like sporting with it and just throwing that thing up and pop, 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 you know, doing a lot of shooting like that. It would work flawlessly for that. I'm talking as quality as you can get in a scope, in my opinion. And if you want to go a little cheaper, you could get the S-Tac that does have all of that dope in the scope. And it's got your little dots and a ring and a dot in the middle, and it's all illuminated if you want it to be. And I think that scope, it's made in the Philippines, and it runs about $400 to $500, I'm pretty sure. So for another $1,000, you can have the perfect reticle. I would love to see them do the S-Tac with this reticle, that super plain Jane basic reticle. To me, like I said, the 3x9x40 is like the ultimate hunting scope if you have a whole lot of situations that you're trying to meet. But I don't. I usually hunt right here. I've got longer range guns at my disposal. If I want to hunt out in a field that has like a 300 or 400 yard shot, I'm not taking this if that's the case. But I'm not really a big field hunter. I like getting, even though my last name's Fields, I like to get out in the woods, close range, and be right up on top of them. That's why I'm a big bow hunter. But with this, man, like this rig is as close as you can get to bow hunting with the rifle that there is, because it is stupid quiet, and that scope, man, it just makes it. I don't have any code to give you, nothing like that. I'm not an affiliate or whatever. I just wanted to try the scope. They wanted to send it to me. Here we are. Those are my thoughts with the scope. I like it, and I will use this for years to come and enjoy the heck out of it. Thank you.